If you're a mobile phone user like me or one who has a bank account, you may have been bombarded by messages and emails from your cell phone operators and from your banks asking you to link your Aadhaar number. The government announced it is extending the deadline for this to March. However, the bombardment continues. Today, the three-judge bench of Supreme Court has said that a larger constitution bench will look at this issue and the 20-odd other petitions in this matter. But meanwhile, there were other developments related to Aadhaar as well. The top court has now done away with West Bengal government's petition saying that Mamata Banerjee's government will not link Aadhaar to welfare schemes. The top court told Kapil Sibal, who was appearing for the government, how can a state government challenge a law passed by Parliament? They've asked her to come as an individual for them to consider it. Meanwhile, the supporters of Aadhaar say that the concerns against linking are those of elitists, not the poor who would get benefits, and it would stop pilferage. A group of well-known citizens, singers like Sophia Ashraf and award-winning singer T.M. Krishna and writer Perumal Murugan have come up with this song, which is inspired by the privacy judgment and tackles all the issues that citizens have about the government's Aadhaar scheme. Take a look.
Privacy is the foundation of liberty. I choose how to exercise my liberty. Privacy is my fundamental right. It protects my right to choice and self-determination, my beliefs, thoughts, expressions, ideas, ideologies, preferences and choices. I can be different, stand against the tide of conformity. Privacy rejects homogeneity. Privacy rejects homogeneity. Privacy rejects homogeneity. Privacy recognizes heterogeneity. I can be who I want to be, I can eat what I want, I can wear what I like. Privacy gives me the freedom of association, freedom of travel, freedom of residence, freedom of resistance.
मेरी काम क्या, मेरी दोस्ती किससे, मेरा खान पान क्या, मैं सोचूं क्या, इन पर नहीं घुसेगी तुम्हारी नाक, सुन लो बरखुरदार, सुन लो बरखुरदार, निजता की हमारी मांग पर अदालत ने की हमारी जयकार। आधार को अब हम करेंगे निराधार, आधार को अब हम करेंगे निराधार, आधार को अब हम करेंगे निराधार।
Carnatic singer T.M. Krishna singing these messages about Aadhaar and its privacy concerns in Hindi. A strong message there from T.M. Krishna and the other people seen in that video, which also features Perumal Murugan and other people fighting against this. Now, just before we speak to T.M. Krishna, and we also have Ritika Khera of the IIT Delhi, who all have been fighting and voicing concerns about it. We also have Gopal Shankar Narayan, a Supreme Court advocate, who will be telling us about the government side of things. But before that, I just want to tell all our viewers that all of this comes in the midst of disturbing and persistent reports from the family of a little girl in Jharkhand claiming she died of starvation because she didn't have access to food because they didn't have Aadhaar, to another claiming she was denied school admission because of not having Aadhaar card. These are the really extreme cases, but there are many other instances also of pensioners not knowing what to do, of having to deal with varying charges by private agencies, many such accounts, and that's what we are hoping to answer for all of you. Do we wait till this is decided by a constitutional bench, or should we give in order to avoid the harassment by all these agencies? That's what we are hoping to enlighten you on with our experts. And just to give you an indication, on agenda we have the student audience, and before the show we asked our audience members how many of them had actually gone ahead and linked it, and all the students have apart from two. Can you raise your hands who haven't linked your bank accounts to and your phones? Okay. Okay, some more of you as well. So we'll be speaking to them. First, I just wanted to go across to TM Krishna. Thank you very much for speaking to NDTV. I just saw that wonderful video done by you and other artists. You're singing in Hindi over there. What was the idea behind this video?
I think there were two parts of it. I think the most important part was first to celebrate the privacy verdict. The privacy verdict has put on paper something that we all knew as citizens. It places back the soul and the heart of the Constitution, which is about its citizens, which is about the people, and not about governments or the state. And this privacy verdict tells us that we have rights on our thoughts, we have rights on our space, on our sexuality, on the limits to which the government or the state can infringe, can ask questions about it. And they can't manipulate and force any of this out of us. And the whole spirit of living is based on our ability to secure this preciousness. You know, the problem in this discourse has been most people take privacy to be secrecy. Now that has to be first completely demolished. Privacy is not secrecy. Privacy is the right to be who you are, irrespective of anything. And that is what the government is infringing upon. And Aadhaar, the reason why the song links it to Aadhaar is Aadhaar from day one has been the government telling us lies. I think this has to be said loud and clear. The governments, irrespective of whether it is the, which party is in power, from the Congress to the BJP, as far as Aadhaar is concerned, they have been twisting and turning and changing and manipulating too many things. It infringes upon everything that it means to be a citizen of this country. You yourself spoke about these horrific stories. Let me tell you one story which comes from a privileged person like me. ICSE is a private board. It's not a government board. I got a notification from our school in June saying if my daughter didn't have an Aadhaar number, she can't write her 10th board exams next year. This forced my wife and my daughter to get an Aadhaar card. I still don't have an Aadhaar card. But I'm saying these are all mechanisms put in place to draw out of you, to monitor you, to link you to everything. Your phone, your bank account, your bookings, your travel. This is actually harassment, in my opinion. And I think the privacy verdict, irrespective of what happens in Supreme Court with the Aadhaar case, the privacy verdict says it loud and clear that the human being, the citizen, is the most important person in the idea of a democracy, in a constitution. And this has to be placed in multiple languages. This is not an elite conversation. In fact, this matters much more to the laborers, to the farmers, to those people who don't have Aadhaar numbers, who are struggling much more than actually you and me. And therefore, we thought this song is celebratory, questioning, challenging, and I think putting on the dock the idea is that the government is literally thrusting upon us.
You know, the experience that you mentioned, TM Krishna, is exactly the one that has been documented by news reports of July 2017, where a girl was denied school admission, and there, while the authorities said no one can be denied, but they said because she was told, because she failed to provide Aadhaar details. And perhaps, Gopal Shankar, I just wanted to bring you in over here because you have appeared once for the government. I know you're not a government counsel on this anymore, but if you could just make the government position clear, is there clarity now that can we wait for the order to come out? Or why is it that we're still getting messages? If they've said that it's being extended, why are people being told that you have to link all of this?
Well, thanks for having me, Sunetra. The problem, I think, has been that from the outset, the government has been inconsistent in its position with reference to implementing the court's interim orders. Way back from 2014, the Supreme Court has repeatedly said that you will not insist on Aadhaar, you will not make it mandatory. Many interim orders, more than half a dozen interim orders have been passed. Now, the governments have clearly turned a blind eye. In some cases, they have been complicit in ensuring that people who should never have been asking for Aadhaar as the only document were doing it. TM Krishna just mentioned about the ICSE asking for it. There have been instances across the country where registrars have asked for it for registration of documents. Many other people have asked for it, all of which was in violation of the Supreme Court's orders and would be in contempt. Now, what the government has done thereafter is that they have enacted a legislation, because one of the problems with Aadhaar initially when the challenge came up was that there was no law backing it. So they gave it a statutory basis, and they also said that it would not be mandatory in the law. The law spells it out as only a beneficial mechanism, and if people voluntarily want to seek any benefits from the government, they would need to have an Aadhaar. However, the government, after having made this law, has taken a couple of steps which are outside of the Aadhaar Act. They have enacted an amendment to the Prevention of Money Laundering Act to say that an Aadhaar is absolutely essential to be linked to bank accounts. They have come out with a clause in the Finance Act which makes it necessary to link the Aadhaar to the PAN. Now, these clearly seem to be outside the non-mandatory nature of the interim orders and the non-mandatory nature of the Aadhaar Act itself.
So when the
government is now having to defend.
When the court says today, tells West Bengal government, you can't challenge this, is that something you agree? Yes. Can they say that?
Absolutely they can, but that has a little more to do with form than with substance. The Bengal government bizarrely filed an Article 32 petition, a petition that is available to individuals to protect their fundamental rights. So the state of West Bengal went to the Supreme Court with an Article 32 petition, and the court very rightly said, look, how can a state come using this kind of provision and file a petition challenging a central law? The only option available to a state government, if it wants to challenge central government action in the Supreme Court, is to file an original suit under Article 131, which is available only between the central government and the states, or inter se between states. So the Kaveri dispute, for example, between Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, is an example of how you do that. You don't file an Article 32 petition which is available to you and me.
Okay, so by the end of the day, just for our viewers, by the end of the day, the petitioners who are opposing the mandatory nature of Aadhaar and the linkages ask the court about whether they wait till the extended deadline to not link or not. But there doesn't seem to be a clarity on this, and we'll just ask Ritika Khera on that in just a bit. But I just want to go across to these two students who said they haven't.
One small thing.
Sorry, Gopal Shankar Narayan.
Yeah. Just one small thing is that, look, the deadline for many of these mandatory things is December 31st. In some cases, they've extended it. Now, either the Supreme Court hears it and grants an interim order to the petitioners saying, look, don't make these things mandatory before the 31st of December. Either they do that, right, and give an interim order, or they hear the case finally before the end of the year. The Chief Justice seems to have given an indication that he will try and constitute a bench of 5 judges to hear it finally in the end of November.
Okay. But till then, what's happening is we are still getting those messages, and I think it's leading to a lot of confusion, especially for people who have all their savings there, pensioners and others who feel a little intimidated by this barrage of messages over there. I want you to give us some idea about what we should do about this, what our rights are. But just two young people who have, most people in our audience have just linked it. Why haven't you done so?
Why should I have a compulsion to link something as personal as my fingerprint to my financial transactions?
And when the government says that this will end corruption, don't you accept that?
How can I believe that my fingerprint will be private and my details won't be shared? How can I believe in the security of this system?
So you don't want to give them your bank details for now?
No.
Okay, and why haven't you done it?
Nowadays, cybercrime is so frequent that I want to wait for the government final decision before linking my Aadhaar card, because I am scared so that I don't become the prey of the cybercrime in the future.
Okay, so these two minority voices and everybody else has just given in to do it. But what would you advise people how to deal with these constant messages from banks and phone companies?
I've been telling everyone that they should delete these messages for now, because first of all, the deadline is far away, and 2, the court is still hearing this matter. In the case of the mobile linking, actually when the Supreme Court had ruled in the past, they had just asked the government to do some sort of verification. They had not asked it to do Aadhaar verification. The government has taken that order and then twisted it and made it only with Aadhaar and made it compulsory as well. So there is a bit of a, you know, Mr. Krishna said that there's been a lot of lies, and I think the lies are all over the place. There is the lie in this case of twisting the Supreme Court order in the case of mobiles. There is the case that from Jharkhand, where
Yes.
even today the state government is denying. There are written orders where they have said that if the Aadhaar card is not linked to your PDS ration card, then
You
the
can't
card
be
will be
stopped.
deleted.
Yeah.
There are written orders, and yet they are saying we have never not given any such orders. We are not denying people. People, when their fingerprints don't work, they are being denied rations on a regular basis in Jharkhand, Rajasthan, even
Odisha as well.
Andhra, Telangana, and the central government is pushing this technology, which is clearly not working on the ground, onto people whose lives, literally it is their lives that are in the line. I mean, you know, that's what's at stake. And the death of this girl is just absolutely tragic, and even now I'm not sure what the state government is planning to do. They're still
Yes, because
insisting.
Ramvilas Paswan gave us an interview saying that's not true. You can't, no ration will be stopped till.
But this is exactly
of Aadhaar.
the duplicitous game that Mr. Krishna mentioned, that it has been founded on lies. You know, today people are asking, why are we being asked to link our mobile number? What is the gain from this? Why are we being asked to link our PAN number or bank accounts?
Right.
We have been saying exactly the same thing for the case of, you know, in the case of the PDS or midday meals. There is absolutely no logic that the government is able to come up with why this will benefit those things. But
Well, they say to fight terrorism.
yeah, but you know, first they said it was corruption, then they said it was for financial inclusion, then they said it's for tax evasion, then they said it's terrorism. Now Mr. Nilekani is saying data is the new oil. That, you know, basically what they want to do is they want to do a lot of data mining. If this number is in every single database in the country, then you can do correlations, they can do targeted advertising, which of course we are already experiencing through Google and Facebook. But the fact that other people are doing wrong doesn't give a justification to enhance that kind of infrastructure, which will facilitate surveillance, where the government can keep track of, you know, Ritika booked a ticket from X to Y, there she withdrew so much money, then she went to hired a car and went into the forest, so she must be doing something
The kind
strange.
of issues that people like Edward Snowden and all have raised internationally.
Absolutely. So even this argument that privacy, what is privacy and why is it so fundamental to our lives? The
Yeah.
privacy judgment is actually very clearly stated. This is not an elitist concern. It
Yeah.
is the very essence of a democracy.
Sure.
If you feel that you're being watched all the time, then you will constrain your behavior, even if you're not doing anything wrong.
Okay, you wanted to add something, T.M. Krishna?
Yeah, I want to add something here. This whole smoke screen that this is going to somehow just solve corruption is so much rubbish. You know, this is like the demonetization story, that you demonetize and then fake currency will go away and then black money will all come back. I mean, will go away, we will get all the money back. I mean, this whole thing is a big fraud and we have to call it out loudly. The fact is there are still human beings involved. There is corruption, and she beautifully talked about people being denied rations. What about people being, you know, you have your Aadhaar number and then are you getting all your rations? That is still a human being that is doing the transaction. So, you know, this is not going to make corruption disappear, and you know, that is being sold as the front end to this whole construction where, you know, and we should not, of course, data, of course the security hacking is a big issue, but let's not limit this discussion to that, and that's what also we have done to a large extent, talk about security of data. No, this is the whole premise of such thing as an Aadhaar. The process in which it's put into place is itself ethically very disturbing. It is not going to eradicate corruption overnight like this. You have to clear so many other systems that are in place, change so many other mechanisms if you want corruption to actually be addressed. I mean, this is not a magic pill. You are selling it like a magic pill because what you're actually doing is something else. And this is something all political parties love. And like she said, now we are saying data is oil. It's about surveillance, it's about monitoring, it's about advertising. You basically have no control, and as a creative person, you know, privacy is the most beautiful aspect, and creative person is any citizen is a creative person. You know, the idea that you can express yourself, you can think, not worried that somebody is watching you. Now, and if you are always going to be worried, and private and public, there is blurring of private companies, the blurring of the government, who's doing what. I mean, the whole thing is so slow, grey. It's actually quite frightening, but many of us are not seeing it, and that's worrisome.
Okay, I know Ritika Kira wants to come in over here. Can we just take a question and then come to you? Yeah.
Sure. My question is, even though I agree with this privacy thing, I know my things are being monitored, my every transaction, my mobile SIM is being monitored. Okay. I just want to know how can we not acknowledge this move which is being done by the government? How can we simply refuse the government? It's my question, because we are being coerced by the government into doing this thing. We are
and students, I guess, you know, like T.M. Krishna was saying, his daughter's exam was at fault, and they're all thinking that what if the next thing, so you have to be prepared. So how
see, you know, we live in a democratic society, so where is the question of being coerced by the government, right? We have to hold the government accountable to us. They are supposed to serve us, and everyone has a sad Aadhaar story. I mean, I have really sad ones from Jharkhand where children are being denied food. Even in school, their biometric attendance doesn't work, and one day if it becomes compulsory, then they'll be denied food also. And you know, this argument, I just wanted to add a little bit about, you know, because you have something to hide, that's why you're worried about this surveillance. But that's not true. You know, there's this All India Bakchod, which is a satirist group, and he says if I'm dying, the only thing I care about is that my phone should be locked, because there's no way I want anyone to see on my phone a meme which says, aren't you the guy who can't get it up? Yeah, so I mean, we have all kinds of things in our lives which we don't want to share with other people. If you're driving on the road and there's a policeman, even if you have your license, you have your seat belt, you're within the speed limit, you still sort of stop for a second and check everything, right? So being watched creates this kind of change in behavior, which is an infringement of our freedom. Right. And if we are not free, then there's no point.
What question did you want? Yep.
मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि जब हम आधार कार्ड बनाते हैं उस टाइम पे हमारे हाथों के फिंगरप्रिंट्स लिए जाते हैं और आंखों का रेटिना, तो जो लोग देख नहीं सकते हैं या जिनके साथ ऐसी और कोई प्रॉब्लम है, लाइक किसी का हाथ नहीं है, तो उनके लिए कहाँ तक ये ठीक है?
तो जो उनका रूल्स हैं उसमें बायोमेट्रिक एक्सेप्शन के लिए उन्होंने बनाया है. अगर आपको लेप्रेसी है और आपके फिंगरप्रिंट्स नहीं रजिस्टर होते और अगर आपको आइरिस स्कैन नहीं हो रहा, कैटरैक्ट है, सो देयर इज अ प्रोविजन फॉर बायोमेट्रिक एक्सेप्शन. बट व्हाट वी आर फाइंडिंग ऑन द ग्राउंड इज दैट अ लॉट ऑफ दीज टाइप्स ऑफ पीपल हैव एक्चुअली ट्राइड अगेन एंड अगेन एंड दे हैव नॉट बीन एबल टू गेट आधार मेड. On the other hand, this biometric exception has been used to create forged Aadhaar IDs. So in Hyderabad 2-3 years ago, there was a big scam where you know, a bunch of people, an enrollment center was using biometric exception to create ghost IDs. Yeah, and you know that now the government has said in Parliament 49,000 enrollment agencies have been blacklisted across the country for not following the rule book, basically. You heard about what happened in Lucknow. They were again, you know, finding ways.
You know, we're totally out of time. I just wanted to end by asking you, T.M. Krishna, that, you know, creative people like you have got involved in this movement. Would you want people from across the country to do the same and make a statement in some way?
I wish, but this country has always had a dearth of creative people participating in political and social discourse. But I really hope people do, and I want people to think deeper about this issue of Aadhaar. It's, I think in general, everybody is looking at it only at the surface level, and I think they have to seriously dig deeper on what it means to be monitored, what it means to be always under surveillance, and what it means more than that to be denied things. You're a legal democratic citizen of this country, and you're told you can't go into school, you're told you can't get rations. Now, I think that is just, I mean, that is vulgarity at its worst, and I do hope that you at least take that up. I mean, I really hope the cinema stars, the big superstars in this country who are advertising for so many things would spend 5 minutes doing this.
I know, and the fact that you're speaking out, I'm sure, inspires many others. That's it on the show. It's a story we'll be tracking. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.